Imagine a cinematic universe so massive and, so incredibly tangled that you literally need a quantum physics engine just to prove a plot hole doesn't exist.
Right.
Today, we are looking at a blueprint that attempts to mathematically eradicate bad writing. So, welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We've got a really deeply fascinating, honestly, highly enigmatic executive summary to look at today. It's from a platform called Bibebibebibe magazine.
Yeah, it's quite the name.
It really is. But our mission for you today is to decode this bizarre intersection of massive transmedia world building, quantum mechanics, and some of the most aggressive intellectual property frameworks imaginable.
Exactly.
We are stepping into the architecture designed by a Dr. Melvin Sewell, M.Sc, Ph.D.
Yeah, and the document itself, I mean, it presents a really fascinating duality. On a first read, the terminology is just incredibly dense.
Oh, totally.
It leans so heavily into theoretical physics and advanced computational models. Like, we are introduced to systems like well, he calls it a multiversal quantum engine.
Right, and a high-fidelity reality benchmark. It sounds like pure sci-fi.
It does, but when you actually peel back the layers of that academic and, scientific nomenclature, you find a really rigorous, highly structured approach to narrative design and brand licensing, too.
Yeah.
Dr. Sewell is basically attempting to engineer a permanent structural solution to narrative inconsistency.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really grasp the sheer ambition of this engine Dr. Sewell has built, we have to look at the massive problem it's trying to solve in modern storytelling, which is essentially logical decay.
Right, lore debt.
Exactly. We see this all the time today, right? When a franchise goes on for decades, you have different authors, shifting mediums, retcons, alternate timelines.
It just piles up.
It does. And eventually, the foundational rules of that universe just begin to buckle under their own weight. You get characters surviving things they shouldn't, or timelines that directly contradict, like a movie that came out 5 years ago.
Yeah, in software engineering, that accumulation of sloppy code or, quick fixes is called tech debt. What Dr. Sewell's addressing here is essentially lore debt.
Lore debt. I love that term.
It's so accurate, though, because as a transmedia property expands across films and comics and video games, the structural integrity of its internal logic decays.
Yeah.
So the source text outlines this suite called the Vision Engine applications and starts with what he calls the lore engine.
And this isn't just like a wiki, right?
No, not at all. It's not a simple database or a wiki page. It is framed as a foundational architectural standard for narrative design.
Okay, so I look at the reality level analyzer they introduce here, and my brain immediately maps it to like an interdimensional spell checker.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of scanning a Word document for typos, it's scanning an entire cinematic or gaming universe to flag plot holes and continuity errors. It's trying to optimize what the text calls ontic density,
Ontic density, yeah.
which is basically the tangible structural reality of the fictional world.
That spell checker analogy captures the user-end experience perfectly. But the back-end mechanism is, well, it's far more robust than that.
How so?
Well, a standard spell checker just references a static dictionary, right? Dr. Sewell's engine utilizes what the document calls state dynamics.
State dynamics.
Yeah, and it explicitly defines this as a category-theoretic back-end computing real-time multiversal persistence.
Okay, wow. Category theoretic backend. So that tells me it's treating character locations or timeline events or even the physical rules of the lore as rigid mathematical states, almost like nodes on a network.
Exactly, they become verifiable states.
So if location X was destroyed in year 3 as a verified mathematical state, and then some new writer drafts a script where, I don't know, character A visits location X in year 5, the backend doesn't just flag it as a simple continuity error.
No, it rejects it entirely.
Treats it as a mathematical impossibility. Like the new narrative node literally cannot connect to the established network. It fails to persist.
Precisely. The system actively prevents the lore debt from accumulating. Category theory usually governs how really complex computational systems interact without breaking.
Right.
So by applying that here, Dr. Sewell is elevating narrative continuity into a computationally verifiable architecture.
It's wild.
A story ceases to be just, a collection of creative choices. It becomes a mathematical proof. The engine actually mathematically tracks whether a timeline is persisting logically or if it's just collapsing under its own contradictions.
Which means we need a way to actually quantify that persistence.
Yeah.
Like, an engine like this can't just spit out a pass or fail notification. It needs a real scoring system.
Right, it needs a metric.
And that leads us directly into the structured multiversal interactions framework, or SMI, and the metric it produces, which is the reality level scalar.
Yes, marked with the trademark Greek letter xi.
The Xi scalar.
Exactly. The reality level scalar acts as the ultimate benchmark here. It is the literal numerical representation of a narrative's structural integrity.
And the executive summary points back to a previous publication to sort of ground this whole framework. It cites something called isotopic state spaces and atomic manufacturing via SMI and the reality level scalar.
Which is a very heavy title.
It really is. We are literally talking about manufacturing fictional universes with the exact precision of radioactive isotopes. The text actually provides the parameters for an SMI quantum simulator node to run these narrative tests.
And those technical parameters listed are incredibly specific. The document outlines the evolution of a 2-qubit Hamiltonian state vector.
Okay, let's pause there. A 2-qubit Hamiltonian state vector.
Yeah. It requires a scalar field set to 1.0 and a coupling constant, which is represented mathematically by the letter G, set to exactly 1.5.
Now, if we map a 2-qubit Hamiltonian to a narrative structure, we are looking at something way more complex than just, keeping a database of a character's backstory.
Oh, absolutely.
Because a Hamiltonian represents the total energy of a system in quantum mechanics, right? And a 2-qubit system involves 2 quantum states that can entangle and actually influence each other.
Right, they are interconnected.
So if qubit A is our protagonist's timeline and qubit B is our antagonist's timeline, the engine is calculating the total narrative energy of their conflict.
Yes.
It's measuring how their destinies entangle and affect the broader universe around them.
And the inclusion of that coupling constant set to 0.5 is basically the linchpin of that entanglement.
Explain that part.
So in physics, the coupling constant dictates the strength of the interaction between two forces. By setting it exactly at 0.5, Dr. Sewell's parameter suggests a perfect symmetrical equilibrium.
Ah, I see.
Neither narrative qubit, if you will, overpowers the other. By running a narrative through this simulator node, you are literally inputting the parameters of a conflict and calculating its stability.
It's just a fascinating leap. I mean, taking the abstract art of storytelling, right? The pacing, the emotional stakes, the feeling of a character's choice actually being earned, and subjecting all of that to a literal quantum computing simulator node. But I have to ask, because this brings up a huge question for me about literal implementation versus metaphor.
I know exactly what you're going to ask.
Are we looking at actual literal quantum computing mechanics here? Or has Dr. Sewell just cleverly co-opted the language of MIT physicists to build the ultimate world-building metaphor?
Well, the brilliance of the document is that the distinction dissolves the further you read.
Really?
Yeah. Whether it is highly sophisticated software utilizing actual quantum algorithms or just a conceptual schema that uses physics as a really rigid metaphorical framework, the end result is basically the same.
The demand for consistency.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Dr. Sewell is demanding atomic-level precision for what he calls isotopic state spaces, which is just his term for these interconnected universes.
Okay, but a theoretical mathematical framework for perfect storytelling is really just an academic exercise unless it has an ecosystem to live in, right?
Yeah, and its practical application.
A massive engine needs a market. And Dr. Sewell maps out the monetization and the industry integration of this technology very, very aggressively.
He really does. The document pivots from theoretical physics directly into a product suite. It targets the two absolute largest transmedia industries, which are game development and film and media.
Right. And for game dev, the offering of SDKs and shaders for dynamic narrative branching is, it's a monumental shift.
Oh, it would change everything.
If I'm a developer building a massive open world RPG and I plug this Bibebibebibe engine SDK into my game, I don't have to manually write out every single consequence for every single player action.
Right, because the engine does the heavy lifting.
Exactly. If a player decides to, eliminate a key merchant in town, the engine procedurally calculates the multiversal ripples of that action. It generates new dialogue and adjusts the world state in real time, mathematically ensuring that this branching narrative never violates the core rules of the game's lore. And the shaders, they aren't just rendering lighting and graphics anymore. They are literally rendering narrative reality.
It guarantees maximum object density regardless of user interaction.
Right.
And the applications for film and media are equally disruptive. The document offers pre-production lore verification and cross-platform tracking.
So what does that look like for a studio?
Well, imagine a major studio planning a $200 million tentpole film. They can run their entire script through the Reality Level Analyzer before a single frame is ever shot.
Wow.
They verify computationally that the film's events perfectly align with the tie-in comic books, the streaming spin-offs, the merchandise, everything.
And the consumer-facing side of this is brilliant too, because the summary introduces a brand licensing strategy featuring the BB Inside mark and the BB seal of quality.
Yes.
Which to me, so what does this all mean? It essentially operates exactly like the Intel Inside sticker you see on a laptop, but for intellectual property.
That's a perfect comparison. It functions as a prestige stamp, a guarantee of structural coherence.
You see the BB Inside logo on a movie poster or on the loading screen of a video game, and it tells you, the audience, that this world has achieved a maximum reality level scalar.
Right.
It promises that you won't be frustrated by lazy writing or forgotten character arcs or impossible plot holes, because the math has already verified the universe.
But a guarantee of that magnitude requires a heavily fortified legal perimeter.
Yeah.
And the sovereign intellectual property notice at the bottom of the document reveals a staggering approach to digital rights.
Oh, it's intense.
Dr. Sewell is not simply copywriting a fictional story about a multiverse.
No, he is claiming prior art on the actual architecture of imagination. The legal text states that all proprietary frameworks, mathematical models, architectural systems, and conceptual schemas are globally registered via immutable digital repositories.
Yeah.
And he cites a Zenodo ID, specifically Sewell's.me, to anchor this claim.
Utilizing Zenodo is a highly strategic move here.
Why is that?
Well, it's an open access repository built into the European Open Science Cloud. It's designed to provide a digital object identifier, or DOI, for hard scientific research data.
Okay, so it's not just a standard copyright office.
Not at all. By registering the structured multiversal interactions framework there, he is establishing a time-stamped, machine-readable proof of invention for a scientific framework, rather than just, a traditional literary copyright.
And he pairs that immutable DOI with a super strict Creative Commons license, the CC BY NC ND 4.0.
Yes.
The no derivative stipulation is massive here. If the underlying mathematical framework of a universe is protected under a no derivatives license, the implications for things like fan fiction or unauthorized expansions are wild.
Well, they can completely shut down.
You can't just tweak the variables of his Hamiltonian state vector, change the names, and launch your own cinematic universe. He has locked down the mathematical scaffolding of how a multiverse is actually built.
Yeah.
Any academic reinterpretation or even translation into different nomenclature requires explicit written sovereign authorization.
He is protecting the mechanism of world building itself. It's really a profound precedent for digital rights in transmedia.
It really is.
You cannot separate the story from the math that proves the story exists.
But all of this, right, the category theoretic backends, the quantum simulator nodes, the ironclad DOIs, none of it matters if you don't have a universe to run it on.
Exactly. You have to test it.
You have to prove the engine works. And the document actually gives us an incredible glimpse into the test environment Dr. Sewell built for his own architecture.
Yeah, we get our first indication of this through his professional titles in the document. He signs the text not only as the CEO of TrueFlow Games and Bibebibebibe Studio, but as the academic dean and diagnostic architect of the Cosmic University of Echo Rift Studies IX.
Which is such an amazing title. I find that transition from corporate CEO to academic dean of a fictional cosmic university completely seamless.
It's very smooth.
It pulls us directly into the TrueFlow universe, which is the specific transmedia architecture he protected in the IP notice. And under a section labeled Chapter 1 Origin, we get this single, highly concentrated lore drop.
Right.
It says, Psycho Venga emerges from the rift born between slipflow and counterflow, marked by SH1 resonance.
And analyzing that single sentence through the lens of the vision engine reveals that every single term is a mathematical output.
Yes.
It isn't just evocative sci-fi world building, it is the direct manifestation of the parameters we discussed earlier.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because we talked about that coupling constant being set to 0.5 earlier,
Mm.
right, creating this perfect, unyielding equilibrium between two forces.
Yes.
Segovenga is described as being born exactly between slip flow and counterflow. The math is dictating the reality of the character. That 0.5 equilibrium is the invisible machinery generating the slip flow and the counterflow phenomena.
And this raises an important question about how the lore is verified. The SH1 resonance marking the character, it acts as the verifiable signature of that state.
Right.
It is the character's ontic density metric within the true flow universe. The lore is the direct computed output of the SMI quantum simulator node running that 2-qubit Hamiltonian.
It proves his concept in real time. The text refuses to be categorized as just one thing. It blurs the line between a corporate pitch deck, an academic physics paper, a legal prior art claim, and a science fiction origin story.
The medium itself becomes part of the lore. The executive summary isn't merely a document describing the TrueFlow universe. It operates as an artifact retrieved from within the TrueFlow universe.
Wow, yeah.
Reading it engages you directly with the Cosmic University of Echo-Rip Studies NIAX. The structure of the document is essentially a live demonstration of the BB Inside philosophy.
It's just an incredibly ambitious vision. I mean, for anyone listening to this, whether you are a game developer trying to wrangle huge branching dialogue trees, or a novelist building a massive fantasy world, or honestly just a fan who's tired of watching your favorite cinematic universes fall apart.
Right, the lore debt.
The Bibebibebibe ecosystem presents a really compelling argument. The future of creating content might demand the exact same architectural rigor as building a suspension bridge.
Yeah.
You can't just pile up interesting ideas anymore. You need the mathematical framework to ensure the entire structure won't just collapse under its own weight.
Audiences are increasingly sensitive to that lore debt. They demand high-fidelity reality from their transmedia. And Dr. Sewell has engineered a roadmap to computationally guarantee it.
He really has.
He's created a space where human imagination and quantum mechanics are inextricably linked and protected by ironclad digital sovereignty.
But, exploring an engine designed to eradicate logical decay leaves us with a lingering thought. And this is something for you to think about. If we actually reach the point where a story's reality level can be perfectly computed, optimized, and verified by a multiversal quantum engine, what happens to the messiness of human storytelling?
That's a profound question.
Right, because the greatest myths, the most enduring stories in human history, they're often full of logical gaps and emotional leaps and strange contradictions.
Yeah, humans aren't perfectly logical.
Exactly. So if all the great epics of the future must pass a mathematical diagnostic test just to earn a seal of quality, do we risk optimizing away the illogical, beautiful magic that makes a story resonate in the first place? If we can x-ray every single narrative to find the plot holes, I just wonder if we lose something profound in the shadows, something to mull over the next time you dive into a sprawling universe. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.